Great, thank you. Welcome, everybody to the Victoria and Esquimalt Police Board meeting, the public agenda of our portion. For this evening, November 12th, I'm going to start right away by handing things over to my colleague, Paul Farrow, Chair of our Governance Committee, for a territorial acknowledgement.
Thank you, Chairperson. First off, we are meeting here today at the Victoria Police Department headquarters that's located on the traditional territories of the Lekwungen peoples, today known as the Esquimalt and Songhees Nations. We extend our appreciation for the opportunity to live, learn, and work on this territory. When I was thinking about this today, just a few days ago, November the 8th, was Indigenous Veterans Day. And I think it's certainly tied into this acknowledgement that certainly we honor Indigenous people for their service in the Canada's Armed Forces and thank them for their courage and service. As well, Chairperson, I'm going to hopefully take an opportunity to just vary a little bit here from the territorial acknowledgement to recognize a very special person who passed away this morning in British Columbia. I certainly would hope to have a few minutes to.
Thank you, please.
Thank you. So if you didn't hear our 36th Premier, John Horgan, passed away this morning here in Victoria. He was in palliative care at Royal Jubilee Hospital. And certainly I personally had the pleasure in my previous role to work with Premier Horgan on numerous files all around public services. And I want to say that Premier Horgan understood the importance of public services, and I would go so far as including police services within that. He was a champion for making this province better and cared about people just in every part of this province. I would actually go so far and call him the people's premier. And I'm going to miss him, and I know British Columbians are going to miss him, and I think people know there's no doubt across the province who he has worked with will reflect back on the contribution that he made to our province. He has helped us collectively. He has made British Columbia a better place. And if Chairperson, I think I would ask if we could just take a moment of silence to stand and raise and to just reflect back on our Premier Horgan and the loss, and thinking more importantly about his wife Ellie and his two sons. So I put that over to you.
Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you all for doing that. Now I will move right into the business of the meeting. Do we have any declarations of conflict of interest to be made aware? Thank you. Moving on, I am seeking a motion to adopt the public agenda of November 12th, 2024. Seconded by Paul. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And I am seeking a motion to adopt the public minutes of October 15th, 2024. Elizabeth, Tim, all those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. I don't have a huge update this month, but I'll just take a moment and touch on the fact that I have been slowly but surely making my rounds to meet and get to know as many people in the organization as possible. I have made it to 3 out of the 4 watch briefings and enjoyed meeting people, hearing what's going on, making eye contact and connecting. I've really appreciated that opportunity. And I have been enjoying getting to know as many members of the senior leadership team as possible. So I'm continuing my work through that. And I just appreciate the opportunity to be there and for to connect on behalf of the board. Thank you. That is my update. And then we will go to committee's update on page 3. And I'm going to hand it over right to you, Paul, I think. Paul with the governance committee.
Thank you, Chairperson. The topic at hand is the remuneration policy that was deferred from our last meeting back to the governance committee with instructions to review. The governance committee had a review of the motion that we brought forward, and it's bringing forward the motion, which I'll read here in a second. What I'll do is I'll put the motion on the floor, then I will motivate it after that. So on behalf of the governance committee, recommends to the board that the elected officials appointed by their local councils do not receive remuneration. This policy is to be reviewed 2 years or upon the appointment of a new representative from Victoria or Esquimalt Council.
Thank you very much. We have a second for this motion. Elizabeth. Hey, Paul.
So just so this all came about with just updating our policy and having no longer the co-chair model of the mayors here at our VicPD Police Board, and so we needed to figure out how they plugged into our policy. I want to make it very crystal clear that this is a stipend. This is an honorarium. It isn't full remuneration for the work. It is to recognize the out-of-pocket expense for board members to participate on this board. However, the governance committee felt that for various reasons, council appointments should not receive the remuneration. There was concern by one of the mayors at the last board meeting. Unfortunately, I don't believe that they're with us here today, that they were concerned that while they didn't personally want remuneration, they were concerned that it might prohibit or restrict other council members if in fact they became the council representative to this body. The governance committee heard that issue, and which is why we put the second rider in there that said if in fact a different rep is sent by Esquimalt or Victoria that may not happen to be the mayor, the governance committee and this board would effectively review that policy and make any changes if needed. So I think it's self-explanatory. This has gone back and forth numerous times, and this motion is being brought forward on a unanimous recommendation from the governance committee. Thank you.
We have had a lot of conversation about this, but I'd just like to offer the opportunity for any further discussion. Yes, Dale.
I guess my point of view hasn't changed in terms of I feel we're treating individual members of the board in a way that's not useful.
Dale, can you speak up a bit? I can see that Polly can't hear her.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I think it's suggests that we treat individual members of the police board in an unequal manner. And I also was recently reading through some policies that kind of reinforced my view of it, and that one was unbiased policing, the other one was fair and impartial policing. And they both have wording in those policies that talk about not discrimination based on types of employment. And so here we are as a council who's prepared to take an action that is related to types of employment. And so I think that makes it inconsistent with the progress that the department's made in terms of looking at their policies from a diversity lens, an equity lens.
Thank you for bringing that up. And I know you took an opportunity to share that with the board over the weekend. So there has been a chance for people to consider that in more detail. Holly, did you want to respond?
Yeah, I just have one comment. In all of the research that I've done, remuneration is not a word. And it is remuneration. So I just want to point that out. I've just looked it up again, and it has unequivocally reinforced that remuneration does not exist as a word. That's my first thing. My second thing is that I am curious, the wording of this motion where it says this is to be reviewed in 2 years or upon the appointment of new representatives from Victoria or Esquimalt, is that meant that a new representative for either of those councils would trigger the reevaluation of it for both? Does that question make sense? Please ask for clarification if it doesn't.
If in fact a currently Victoria Council and the Esquimalt Council has elected to send their mayors, if in fact they chose to send a councillor or a new representative, they may if the mayor resigned and a new mayor came in, this policy we would review it. So it's as open as it can be to say if there's a different person here, it will be reviewed. And I'll comment about the word in a second after.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Holly?
Yes, it does. Thank you. It was just slightly unclear whether or not it would trigger a reevaluation of it for both groups. That's all.
Holly, Tanya?
So the motion actually reads that the board does not pay elected officials appointed by their local councils a stipend. This is to be reviewed in 2 years or upon the appointment of new representatives from, and the S is in brackets, from Victoria or Esquimalt Council.
Okay,
So it separates it.
that's not the motion that we have in the package. Weird.
That is absolutely not the motion that I am reading. So if that's the motion, then I'm not.
I got clear.
Yes.
Elizabeth, did you want to speak? Did you have your hand up?
I just want to say, there was a good discussion about this last time, you noted. I thought there were some very good points made by the mayor of Esquimalt and Holly. But at the end of the day, the governance committee decided to not change the current situation, but leave the door open. So we're leaving it as where it is right now.
Yeah. Paul?
Just beside the confusion about the policies, the motion that the board EA rep moved has the same effect as the one before us. So I'm, as the chair of the governance committee, are not worried about it's more of the action. And so I would certainly entertain that motion be on the floor. It does the same thing.
Yes, thank you. And I think we need to call this motion, and we've had a substantial discussion about it. So I'd like to call all those in favor. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks very, yes, Holly?
Could you clarify which motion we just voted on? The one that Tanya read or the one that I'm reading in my package?
The one that Tanya read, and Paul indicated that they're the same, so it's fine.
They're not the same though.
We voted on the motion that Tanya read.
Okay.
Are you satisfied with that?
Yeah, as long as we note that they're not the same. At least not from my reading.
Moving on to Tim, HR Chair, to give an update on the Women's Experiential Evening.
Thank you. Yeah, this was part of the HR committee section, and I have no way of speaking to this other than to offer gratitude that it was an evening that was participated. But I think Chief, you and your staff should be the ones speaking. Thank you.
Yes, please.
I would like to turn it over to Staff Sergeant Jan Malinowski to talk a little bit about the evening and what it was, and also wanted to just recognize that board member Dale Chuck was also there, so you may want to comment on what her experience was after. So Jan, over to you.
Sure. So we held a information night for women last week. We had a great group of ladies throughout the department at various levels of service and rank that helped facilitate the night. Cheryl Major did an amazing job of keeping the night going. I believe we had 18 women come through the doors that were interested in policing. So We started with a brief introduction and then broke off into, we assigned, we divided the group into 3 groups. Assigned a sort of a facilitator, a female police officer for each group to kind of take them to stations. So they got to do 3 different stations. So the first one was just trying on gear, talking about some of the equipment that we carry. They got to put on vests, take a few fun photos, but more just try out what it was like to put all our gear on. The second one was a mental wellness. They met with our in-house psychologist, Reba, as well as Sergeant Lee Douglas Hunt, just talked about mental wellness and the things that we do at the department, highlighted some of the programs and how that's changed over time. And then the third was more physical demands of the job. So we had our own Sarah Kaufman roll with them a little bit on the mats. We took them through part of the COPAT test with the push-pull machine. So everybody kind of got to try that. And at every station, there was lots of women there within the department, just supporting and mentoring. And it was neat to get to know the women. And I think it was, and then we ended with a panel. So we had a bunch of women from the department on the panel where we answered questions. So overall, I think the women really enjoyed it. We got some really good positive feedback. And the officers that attended, I think we'll probably could get double the next time. We didn't know what to expect, and it was really fun. We really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. And we had an opportunity as a board to read a number of really positive glowing emails that came in. So I really appreciated that. My guess is that Dale would like to speak in more detail to
I
that.
don't know why you would think that. I like to balance what I say, positive and concerns. I have to say that the event was expertly planned. It was well executed. The flow was really good. The way it worked out in terms of the different round robin kind of process worked really well. Just kind of observing some of the young potential candidates. They seem to be quite relieved to be able to do things like, touch the vest, put it on. There was excitement about getting their picture taken with it on. Certainly the push-pull test for the physical fitness test. There wasn't one female there who tried. I think there was only one who didn't, except myself, who didn't try, who wasn't able to do it at least once. So I think what that did is that it really helped build their confidence in terms of, yes, this is doable. I don't have to be afraid of this test. I think that was very, very positive. The other thing that was quite outstanding was the panel in terms of the female staff who talked about their experiences and the changes that they have seen occur over the last while in terms of policing and how it's a more diverse and open organization. One of the things that seemed to really connect with some of the young women was a discussion about PTSD and all the initiatives that the department has taken in order to work with officers and to recognize, and it's okay to say now that's an issue. It's different than breaking a leg, but it is a health issue. And I think that we have to compliment the department on doing things like having the psychologist on staff. That was very well received as well. So I think that was really some of the concerns in terms of the physical, the emotional, they were both dealt with at that session. It was very, very well done.
Thank you very much, Dale. Yeah, thanks very much. It sounds like a really fantastic. Oh, Paul, go ahead.
Just want to ask a question, just are any type of follow-up going to be undertaken with the group that participated? And that in the sense of, we had a huge crowd. They had this great presentation. I'm just wondering, it seems to me that we may want to keep in touch with the group. I'm just wondering what your thought would be on that.
Yeah, so Tom Stamatakis from recruiting was there. And we got contact information for everybody, and he kind of talked about next steps and said, please stay in contact. One of the things that we probably was a suggestion that I made at the end is we probably should have put all the females' contact information there from the department. We didn't do that. So there was a few cards hanging out, but it would have been nice for them to have, because they may have had a connection with one with somebody that they could connect with later, but Tom did ensure that they'll be follow up. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. And now we will move on to an update from the Finance Committee with the monthly financial report.
Over to Donna.
So this report's for the year to date, October 18th. We were 83.3% spent at that point compared to a target of 81.7%. So that estimated difference is just over $1 million. And this can be explained by retirement costs that we've incurred year to date of $882,000, which are unbudgeted. And just a reminder that we did have $100,000 budgeted in 2023, but that's one of the items that got reduced and is under appeal. I think the plan was to increase that amount over time. And the difference can also be explained by the fact that the integrated units will have some year-end cost sharing adjustments to be posted. So, the cost sharing from the other police agencies. And just to point out again on statement 2, revenue and expenses, we've highlighted items over target and greater than 20,000 year to date, and there are some explanations in the covering memo. And from now until the end of the year, finance will be paying particular attention to actual costs, recoverable and otherwise, for protests and overtime.
Thank you very much. Anything else from the Finance Committee?
No.
Great. We're gonna move on to item G, which is the board member engagement update. And I'm gonna put one of you on the spot of Dale or Elizabeth, and see if anybody would like to give an update on the Community Safety and Wellbeing Conference that we attended. I was also there.
Well, I can start. I mean, it was a very interesting conference. There were a number of local panelists, but also at least one international panelist. And well, I guess the mayor of Port Angeles is international. So that was very interesting to hear the perspectives from a variety of different people about what community safety actually means to them. And I thought the initial presentation by the mayor was quite helpful, because we've been hearing about community safety and well-being and asking, what is this? What is this? What's it going to mean? And that presentation didn't explain what it is, because I guess they're not ready yet to finalize it. But it did talk about some of the thinking that's gone behind it and why they've done it. Primarily because the problems that the city is facing with community safety and well-being are problems that are not generally solved by municipal governments, but that doesn't make them go away. So they've been struggling with trying to deal with some of the issues that they have. But I thought the conference was quite worthwhile. I understand they're going to hold it again next year at a similar time. And I know a number of us were there, but I would encourage those that couldn't make it into their schedule to take another look at it next year, and maybe go to one day or one panel that you find interesting. I learned a lot. Being there.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else who attended want to add anything? Go ahead, Dale.
I thought it was very interesting. The expert, Dr. Drilling, talked a lot about neighborhoods and connection and the role of that in dealing with things like the homelessness and drugs. And so the approach that he talked about was in neighborhoods, as opposed to centralized services in one area, which what we seem to have now. And he really emphasized the important role that the planners have on building communities that are walkable, that there's connection, there's safe places to be for everyone, and also accepting. So rather than having, a street full of people who are homeless, having, opportunities for people to be in individual communities. He also talked about housing first as being really important. Some couple of panels that I attended were interesting. There was one on framework for universal basic income. And what was interesting about that one is that it talked about how it dealt with the root cause of some of the issues that we see in terms of homelessness and being disadvantaged, and talked about what would it mean to have a universal basic income. And there was some research that supports that people don't spend money on more drugs and more alcohol and creating problems. They actually, people involved in those projects actually found stable housing, went back to school, did all those kinds of things. And so I think that's really important to know, because public perception is so key in terms of, well, we're going to pay people to do nothing. Why are we doing that? I think that's really important as well. One of the panels too talked about supporting people with mental illness and brain trauma. And the connection they made was about when somebody is diagnosed with having cancer, they're triaged. And so there's kind of an expediter that kind of, you know, like a case manager that kind of moves you from, you know, stage to stage to stage throughout the entire process. And how if only we could have something like that with mental health and those suffering brain trauma as well. Another discussion that I attended, which was quite interesting, was bylaw. And there were bylaw officers from the city of Victoria. What was interesting to me is that some of the questions and concerns they had about dealing with us were the same concerns and issues that police officers talk about. And I've had an opportunity to talk to them about it. So they also talked about the collaboration and the cooperation with bylaw and police. So that's always encouraging as well. There was also tours of community agencies. The Harbor Safe Injection Site, although it's non-virtual, was one that was very well done. Our Place, Solid was involved. And I think that often we hear people say things like, well, why isn't the mayor doing something? Why isn't the city doing something? Why aren't police doing something? Why aren't community service agencies doing something? And when you take part in these kind of activities, you see that things are actually happening. We just often don't know about it. We don't brag about it. And one of the things that struck me was that we were really impressed with one of the speakers who talked about giving a map to people who were homeless that indicated where you could go to get water, where you could go to the washroom. And when I sat with a bylaw enforcement, they actually, guess what? They have a map as well, and that they give it. You know, so I think we're really quick to recognize what others do, but sometimes we don't recognize the things that we do ourselves.
Thank you very much for that, Dale. I really appreciate all of the great feedback that you brought back from the conference. Paul?
I just have a question, if I may. So I wasn't able to attend the conference. I was actually in Toronto at the time, but I'm just wondering, I didn't hear anything about timelines for actually rolling out this program to the citizens of Victoria. My other question was there any representatives from the provincial government, given that pretty much all the topics that I heard that were actually from my colleagues were actually all fall within the realm of the provincial government. I'm wondering if there was anybody from any of the ministries there commenting on it. So the two questions would be, what are the timelines that we heard from them telling the citizens about this program? And two, given that what I've heard, the ramifications, given that all these programs seem to fall under provincial jurisdiction, was there anybody there representing the province of British Columbia?
I'll speak to that. Unless I missed it, there was no timeline offered at any point for further information being shared on the community safety and well-being plan from the city of Victoria. And again, unless I missed it, there were no provincial representatives there, and that was a topic of conversation amongst very many people who attended the conference. Is why we were having the conversation in a vacuum when it ought to be a bigger discussion. Dale, yes?
Actually, on one of the panels, there was a representative, MVP.
Oh, Grace Lore.
Yeah, she was actually on one of the panels.
That's true. She did speak on.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, Elizabeth.
I think one of the challenges for having a lot of ministers there is that they're in this weird situation right now where, yes, they're still the minister, but you know, the elections happened and they're going to be moved on. My understanding from discussions I've had with the city is that they're aiming for the end of the year to release the public report of the plan.
Thank you very much for that insight. Is there any other board member engagement update that anyone would like to add? Not at this time. Thank you. So I will hand it over to you, Chief Manick, for your Chief Constable update.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Chair. I'm not going to go over the report that's in your package already. It's on page 18. Lists all the different events internally and externally that I participated in since the last board meeting. I have one update, then I'll turn it over to my deputy chiefs to see if they have any update from ops and admin. I wanted to just give the board an update just around professional development for both my deputy chiefs. As the board's aware, Deputy Chief Jason Lakeman will be completing his Masters of Public Administration in August of 2025. It's a program he embarked on a number of years ago. Also I wanted to share with the board that Deputy Chief Jamie McCrae has started last month the Advanced Executive Leadership in Law Enforcement micro program. Now, this is delivered in partnership with the University of Ottawa's Professional Development Institute. There are 6 micro courses started last month, and he will have completed his training in May of next year. So just wanted to update the board on the professional development of my deputy chiefs. And that being said, Deputy Chief McCrae, why don't you provide an ops update, and then I'll go to Chief Lakeman. Thanks.
Sure, thanks, Chief. I have just 2 ops updates for the board today. The first is a file from October the 21st. You may have read some information in the media regarding this. This was where at Central Middle School, where a 40-year-old male in a drug-induced state entered the school during the school day, obviously causing a lot of chaos in the school, resulting in the school going into immediate lockdown and police being called. So we were able to arrive very quickly, and in less than 10 minutes from when the male entered the school, we were able to safely take the male into custody after locating him in the library. It did require the use of a conducted energy weapon, which commonly referred to as a taser, to help take him into custody. He was combative with our officers when they arrived. I'm raising this because I just wanted to highlight the great work of actually many of the students at the school who helped provide assistance to our officers to help provide guidance to where this person actually was. So we returned to the school the day after the person was taken into custody, following up, making sure that the school administration had our full support, anything they needed from us, if they wanted us to speak to any of the classes, the students specifically, anything that we could share. And in the course of those conversations, we shared with the school just the excellent work that some of the students did to provide us with assistance. They are gathering that information, and with our plan to then provide our civilian award to those students who did provide and recognize those students for their assistance. So that will be something that will come in the future, but obviously a scary situation for those who were there, but very well handled by our members and with a good result. The second is a file from October the 23rd, and it actually also led into October the 24th. So this is a file of that has many different layers to it. It starts with a suspect who punched his elderly mother in the face, causing her injury, and resulting in him also then taking her vehicle without her consent. Throughout the course of the next few hours, the suspect had 2 homemade bombs that he detonated in the 1000 block of Pandora Street, and a second one in the corner of Quadra and Johnson Street. They did not cause any injury to anyone, but that caused obviously a significant response from us, as well as ultimately an extensive video canvas where we were able to better identify the vehicle and ultimately the suspect. The following day, on the 24th, the suspect was located and arrested. He was taken into custody safely. He has been charged obviously with assault and then detonating the explosive devices. But further to that, within the vehicle, there was other explosive material that required us to have some specialized services from our Greater Victoria Emergency Response teams to provide some assistance, as well as the major crime unit to do a search warrant on the residence where there was an additional amount of materials that were located. Motivation for this is still being worked on. It's not crystal clear what his issue was or why he picked those particular locations. But nonetheless, it was obviously a concerning call and a call that requires a massive amount of resources from the police agency, everything from our frontline patrol members to our emergency response team, to our detectives, and all the time that it takes to work on and work through something as serious to help maintain public safety. So those are the two I'll highlight for you for today. And any questions, or otherwise I'll pass it over to Debbie and then we're going to update.
Thank you very much. Oh, sorry.
Well, just a comment, it's extremely troubling that we have individuals in our sleepy little city detonating bombs in downtown Victoria. And I just want to say thank you to all of the first responders, to our members here for the work that they do protecting the citizens. It's just hard to even fathom that we're having this conversation and today, and it certainly probably shows the recent provincial election results. Public safety resonated right across this province, and I think this incident certainly shows, people are upset with what's going on in our communities, and again, something has to change. This is just unbelievable that this is happening. And again, I tip my hat and I want to say thank you to the Vic PD officers who responded accordingly. So it's extremely troubling that this is happening in our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chief Laban.
Nothing for the public, and I look forward to the end of August.
Thank you very much. I will move on to item I, equity, diversity, inclusion, and engagement update.
Thank you, Chair, for that. You'll see the entries on the bottom of page 18 from the last meeting. I'll just summarize really quickly. Had a meeting with community leaders from the 2S LGBTQ community. Met with the Jewish community, met with the Muslim community, and I also attended the Christian Remembrance service of the synagogue that was attended by many individuals last week. And that's my update. Thank you.
Very much. Any questions on that? Yes, Tim.
Just on, again, thank you for this, Chief. In the engagement, both internal, external, I always ask this question, but I'd like to get a sense of the themes that you're getting, what, if there's anything popping out to you, and maybe also for the deputies and the rest.
Sure. Yeah, thank you for that. So the general theme that I continue to hear about, which included in my some of the events that I attended since the last board meeting, is just to board member Paul Farrell's comment, is just the appreciation for our officers and staff, their responsiveness, the fact that they're dealing with many complex investigations, high risk investigations, and people ask regularly how our officers are doing, and they recognize that it's very challenging work with limited resources, and the fact that they want me to pass on their thanks and appreciation to our staff. So I hear that loud and clear from all of our communities, no matter where I go, as people seek me out and comment on that. So it's very encouraging to hear that we do have the support of our communities. And so thank you for asking that question.
Thank you very much. And now if we move on, we have an invoice that has come through from PFM Executive Search. So I'm just seeking, I'm looking for a motion.
Yeah, I'll move that we pay this invoice. It's part of our contractual obligations. It would have normally gone to Finance Committee before coming here, but it came in 2 days after our last Finance Committee meeting, so we might have to get on with it. There's no quibbling about this amount of money.
Thank you very much for the seconder. Paul, any discussion? All those in favor? And passes unanimously. I'm now going to hand it over to Inspector Colin Brown just to review a couple of letters that we've received from the OPCC.
Sure, Chair. Just really quickly, very high level. We received some service and policy complaints last year from citizens, and they related to a protest that occurred at the legislature about a year ago. And the protest itself was involving the SOGI legislation. And there are people on both sides of that who some people appreciate the legislation, others who don't. There was quite a large protest that day. Just to give you some context, the police were outnumbered 25-1. So for every one police officer, there was 25 protesters there. And during the course of the protest, we had done a lot of work prior to the protest as far as operational planning goes, things like that. And our goal as police is just to create a safe environment for all protesters. We take a neutral path on that. And during the course of the protest, the protest was quite emotionally charged on either side. And it got to the point where police just believed that we could no longer provide a safe environment. So we just encouraged protest to end. Which of course we don't do lightly, because one of the fundamental rights that we have in Canada is the ability to protest peacefully, particularly on the grounds of the provincial legislature. So as a result of the protest and how it was handled, we did get some complaints from either sides of the issue regarding how the police had handled the issue. As per our normal course, when someone makes a service and policy complaint to us, we will reach out to them. We want to hear about their complaint. We also want to, just advise them kind of what our perspective on the complaint was and the things that we did to try and mitigate the issue. And I can tell you, we met with all of the complainants, and once we explained kind of the perspective of the police is just taking a neutral ground, all of the operational planning that went into managing that protest, all of the complainants were satisfied with the police response. So all of that is forwarded to the OPCC for review, of course, to the board and to the OPCC, and the matters have been concluded. And again, another good opportunity for police to reach out to concerned citizens and kind of tell them in a little bit more depth what we're doing. And so I think the people who had raised those concerns were satisfied with our response.
Thank you very much. Do I have any questions on these? Perfect. So moving on to the letter from the Township of Esquimalt. I'm sure you've had a chance to read it. This is really just for information. I've sent a letter back indicating that I've received this and it's being reviewed by staff, and we'll get that. So there's no action at this time, but the chief might want to speak to this.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Chair, for that. I just wanted to share with the board that Deputy Chief Lakeman has put together a framework of a plan of how to respond to the letter from the township. We are going to discuss this tomorrow with our senior leadership team, and it'll be one of the agenda items for our planning day that we will be having on December the 4th. And we'll have more information after our meeting tomorrow, or perhaps after December 4th, of how we want to respond and what steps we want to take. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. You're too tall to sit next to me. I can't see Paul. Go ahead.
Well, just thank you. Just on the item that's before us, and I've read the letter from the Township of Esquimalt numerous times, and I appreciate the chief's comment and work will a kind of some thought and framework will I'm assuming that will come back to the board for approval. Because I one option is that we simply could say no to the Esquimalt's request, and so I just want to make sure that the board will actually be setting the direction for responding to the letter.
These are certainly the discussions and considerations that we're going to be having at our SLT meeting, preliminarily tomorrow, but during our planning session, because it's a very tall ask, and there's a lot of labor involved in that, and there's a lot of unknowns that we're going to actually have to do, potentially, countrywide scans or what that actually looks like, because we don't have a lot of the answers to the questions, nor as well, they can be very hard to predict. Yeah. So that's all topic of conversation, and certainly your points is well known. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything else on that? All right, great. Well, we're going to move on to our last item, which is just a quick rise and report. We received a request from School District 61 Board of Education for some specific crime data. We've gathered this information and sent it to them. It's just an opportunity for me to rise and report in the public session of this meeting. And if that is all, then I'll seek a motion to adjourn. Paul? Seconded? Elizabeth, all those in favor? Motion adjourned. Or motion adjourned, meeting adjourned, you know what I mean? Thank you very much.
And then we'll be reverting back.
Yeah, we're gonna take 5 more minutes,
Okay.
5-minute break, and then we'll come back to the in-camera.